You have got a little bit of an accent, so you're obviously somewhere south of Coronation Street. Where did you yourself get into the game of recording?
Well, that's actually east of Coronation Street, Trevor. But how did I get into recording? When I was a kid, I was always interested in bits and pieces. And I think I was 12 or something like that. I used to do part-time jobs, and I bought a recorder, a 2-track recorder, which I still have, actually. And I remember just recording a song on it, as you do, playing around. And then I put on the record at the same time as the song, just to see. And one of them was slower than the other. And I didn't, of course, know what the hell was going on. But then I started touching it to try and bring the record into the same speed as a tape recorder, which you could do for a few microseconds. But basically after that, when you start realizing what's going down, it started producing slapback and things that I didn't know were called slapback in little bits of phasing. And so basically that's how it started.
So it was a trial by error process.
It was just fun. I was only 12 years old. I mean, how good does it get?
When did Actually Lab start?
1981. Got a basement in Fanshawe Street, and I think it used to be called The Squeeze. It was a club called The Squeeze, and it wasn't a matter of then identifying markets and doing strategies, you know, like how business is now in the plan. It was just like,
I want a studio.
I want a studio, and I'd been building up over a long period of time, and I'd had sort of a little rehearsal studio for my band and mates out in Otahu in the early 70s, and you know,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't identifying the market. It was initially because I loved playing music and wanted to do things myself, but thought, hey, maybe there's a few more people want to do 4-track.
Yeah.
I think I once worked out, I was earning about 73 cents an hour, you know, but who cares?
Some of that early Flying Nun stuff, like original Straight Jacket Fits EPs and those sort of things, that's sonically really, really good for considering the equipment, really.
Well, yeah, because that actually was another great thing. We had a 16, and I always had a transitional period. I'd buy a 16, we'd run it for a year, and then I'd buy another one, and I'd sell that one off for, say, half the price. So maybe business was starting to come into my head. But we were in that transition period. We just bought a new desk as well, you know, and a very expensive desk for the time. We had an engineer, a great guy, little Terry, young Terry Moore, and he synced the two 16s up, effectively getting, say, 30 tracks, because there's a track each for syncing, and what a nightmare.
You've always been blessed with really good engineers. Mark Cheney was another one, obviously. Mark was obviously from the Straw People, etc. Did you recognise his potential before he started working for you?
Well, Mark was recommended by somebody. I just ran with it. You know, it's about people. I think Mark had done a bit before he came to Lab, but like most engineers who came to us, they were at the start of their career, and I was at the start of my career. The Lab was still in its early stages, so I think we all started out together, and it was a great breeding ground. It was great for me. It got me out of the studio.
To a certain extent, the type of studio that eventuates.
No, I think back then you had to be really inventive, and you had to think ahead.
Because as a musician, I myself, what I used to do is basically hear various things that various people had recorded at various studios, and what it came down to is how much I liked the sound of a particular project, and then I'd check out the engineer, and I'd pretty much go to the studio where the engineer was. Was that a common factor?
I think it's probably bang on the money. You get several factors, which is the engineer in the sound he gets primarily, But a big one that I'm right into is the person. The person is the most important thing. And after that, when he's getting good product as well, hey man, you've got a winning combination.